'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the land Fox News warned its viewers of a dastardly plan. The liberals were launching their war on the season to get rid of Christmas and commit acts of treason, removing decorations out of their sight, and telling you that Santa and Jesus ain't white. Environmentalists who'll come right after your soul. They hate all things Christmas, especially the coal. They'll sneak in your house all dressed in their flannel, and instead give the bad kids some new solar panels. They'll take up all decorations that please us. They'll even go after tiny baby Jesus. Now all these Fox lies cause such a frustration. Who would save us all from this misinformation? When live from the net there came lots of chatter. Could it be old Saint Nick, or perhaps someone fatter? Broadcasting from New Orleans down in Louisiana, it was none other than Liberal Dan, coming to save the holiday season, busting through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. But I cannot do it myself, he exclaimed, so he called other groups, each one by name. On Christians, on Muslims, on Wiccans, on Jews, on Hindus and Buddhists, and atheists too. Let us all spread the word and tell them indeed that there's no war on Christmas, just one on greed. So instead of joining this manufactured fight, listen to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. There is no joining the conversation today, in at least phone-wise, simply because of the fact that Blog Talk Radio is broken yet again. It's probably why they're closing next month, and as such, we can't do the phone calls, and I haven't set up the Google Voice yet to be able to handle it that way, so we can handle the phone calls in a post-Blog Talk Radio world. So, for today, you will just have to comment in the chat and I'll respond accordingly. You know, it is what it is. There's no it is what it is button either. So, again, meh. Anyway, so if you want to support the show, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the stream with your friends, have them join us, share other videos that you like on the channel as well. Got a lot of different stuff to look at, share, etc. Interact with other people on posts, just get those algorithms up. You can also support the show by being a member, by joining as a member here. I'm being a Liberal Danimal, little as $2 a month. You can also buy gift subscriptions or memberships to other people, buy super chats, super stickers, etc. We also have over on Twitch, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe for free. It doesn't cost you anything, just have to renew it every month. Otherwise, you can also buy subscriptions and bits over there. You can Venmo, Liberal Dan at Venmo. Go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me Cider button, and support the show that way. Or you can become a patron, patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. And welcome Rose early on in the show today. Hey, Orville be over in the Twitch chat. Got a bunch of people going. Let's see, you got Aaron, Allison, Josh, Steve from across the pond, CR, Brandon, Jeff, Suzanne, Mad Mac, Dean, Trucker John's in the house, Jeff, think Jackie also, and Roxanne. Good to see y'all. Thank you for joining us in the chat. Appreciate you coming in each and every week. Bunch of stuff to talk about today. We've got, as you know, the world has already fallen apart, or turned upside down, or whatever you want to call it, with Donald Trump not even having yet been sworn in, and it's already going to crap, right? So you got what's going on in France, you got what's going on in Syria. We'll get to those topics in a little bit. Of course, today the Pennsylvania, Altoona, Pennsylvania police seem to believe that they got the shooter of the CEO, Luigi Mangione is Mangione or whatever is the guy's supposed name. Supposedly they found him with a fake ID, the same fake ID, or same at least identifying information on the fake ID that was used in the hostel that he stayed at over in New York. There are a lot of people right now that are mad at the McDonald's employee who turned him in, saying things like "snitches get stitches" or whatever, And again, I'm not going to sit here and condone violence. However, I'm also not going to sit here and weep for somebody who passed away after that person caused so many other people's families such despair, death, etc. And what, at least got, what was it, Blue Cross Blue Shield Anthem to behave for at least a few days, because they were going to not be paying for all of the anesthesia if the anesthesia lasted too long, and they reversed that course. Who knows? And that was announced the day after Wednesday. I think it was announced Thursday that they were doing that, and I was like, "Go see." Nobody else wanted to find out about what's going on with the with other potential angry healthcare users. Apparently, there's been reporting to say that Luigi, not of Mario fame, but Luigi, had already stated problems that he had with the healthcare system. Perhaps somebody with a family member. I've heard on one source, so I think obviously I was right. When I talked about that last week, I basically said he's got to be related to somebody who had some extreme healthcare issues that were in part exacerbated by the greedy and corrupt insurance system here in the United States. Trucker John says, I don't think he really cared about getting caught. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe he didn't think that people in Altoona would find him. That maybe he thought Altoona would be a safe place to stop and take a rest from the running. But, you got one rat in the back of that McDonald's, and apparently that McDonald's has been getting poor reviews online because and they've reported the fact that there's a rat in the kitchen, which is hilarious. But, it happens. Insurance malfeasance is a crime, in my opinion. Well, it should be considered a crime, but the problem is that the CEO of these companies, there's no repercussions for them. There's not a repercussion for them at all, because they take actions, and they'll claim that it's for their shareholders, for the stockholders. They got to do it to increase the value of their company. So then what? By doing that, you that's every dollar that goes towards profit, every dollar that goes towards the profitability or whatever of the company is a dollar that's not spent on needed health care for every single person who's been denied a health claim in this country. Apparently, there's a good list going around of things that you can do if you are denied by your insurer. Like you want to ask them things like the credentials of the physician who rejected your claim, whether or not that physician is licensed to practice medicine in the state in which you reside, various other things that you can ask for that, depending on what state you live in, is going to determine what you can or cannot, or what you are allowed to get, or the insurance companies specifically are forced to provide you. That may differ from state to state, but it can't hurt to ask. And apparently, at least according to some people, the actions that were suggested to be done in this list have worked to get insurance companies to just go ahead and approve the claim, because they would rather approve the claim than have to fight any legal issues that they might be dealing with for not following the laws on who can or cannot deny you care as part of the insurance company. Thank you, Madback. I don't know the exact poundage that I've lost, but again, it's been a struggle to get all of this. I had to wait 6 months to get on this medicine that's helping me lose weight, and also I just, after fighting for about a good month and a half, just finally got another prescription that I needed. to deal with another issue. It's not a serious issue, but it's one that needs to be done. It's just another prescription or whatever. Let's see, Allison. I saw a meme today that said people aren't celebrating an assassination. People are denying a claim for sympathy that's out of their emotional network. Yep. Pretty much. And, the people who are acting with such righteous indignation over the whole thing about, oh, I can't believe you're laughing at people. This is somebody's father and husband. This is somebody who died. He shouldn't have done all the other stuff that he did. Granted, do we support vigilante justice? People say, let's go back to, like, when people were complaining about, like, so-called BLM, riots or whatever. Let's talk about that a second. Well, first and foremost, like in Minneapolis, the one that burnt down the police station over there wasn't a BLM person. It was somebody who was a Boogaloo boy, and not a BLM person, but a Boogaloo boy attempting to make it look like the BLM protesters were up to no good and trying to discredit them by doing something that he himself did. That being said, Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "The riot is the voice of the unheard." You can only go so long without rioting and having bad outcomes that someday you're going to be like, what? Maybe the riot is the answer because we're not being heard, so we need to do something so that we're heard. And apparently there are some people who are afraid that this whole Luigi Mangione alleged shooter killings that have gone on might spur on copycat killers to try and see whether or not they could also do what he did, which was try to enact change via alternative means, alternative therapies, right? I don't know. It's just, again, I am not going to spend my time weeping over somebody who caused so much harm and pain to other people whatsoever. So let's see. Let's go down. I'm just following shareholder orders. Yeah, and apparently there's a meme or there's an image or a screen capture that was taken where Elon Musk was saying that this whole thing is ridiculous, that people are cheering on the shooter, and as a CEO he has a responsibility to his shareholders, yada yada yada. I could not find that on Musk's Twitter account. So I can't necessarily say that that is a valid screenshot. It's probably doctored. It's probably maybe either somebody else who did it and they put Elon Musk's name on top of it, or maybe they just manufactured it himself and put it under Elon Musk's name. I mean, it sounds like something that Elon Musk would say, even if it's not something that he actually said. But there are people who are going to be bootlickers for corporate America. They're going to be corporate shills. They're going to sit here and try and justify the actions that are taken by these companies, and maybe a for-profit motive isn't the best thing when it comes to actually covering people's care. There may be an argument to be made over if for-profit, other areas that are for-profit in the health sector, like, for example, the development of pharmaceuticals, maybe there is something to be said about the fact that people are going to be more likely to try and investigate a cure for something, or treatment for something, more specifically, if there's a profit motive behind it. Then again, that being said, as was it Chris Rock once said a long time ago in one of his specials, I think it was Bigger and Blacker, if I'm remembering it correctly. He once said as one of his comedy specials that there's no profit in the cure, there's the profit in like the maintenance. So these companies don't necessarily want to cure a condition. They want to be able to help you live with the condition that you have by taking their medicine over and over and over and over again, instead of actually getting a cure to actually stop people from getting in the first place, or to just shut it down and eliminate it from the person's body altogether. So that's the alternative argument to whether or not there's, a good argument for profit backing, the development and research and development of all these, medicines that are supposedly trying to make our lives better. Of course, these pharmaceutical companies also take, what is it? Was it polio? No, what it was insulin or whatever. Like they're insulin's supposed to be super cheap. And was it Pasteur who made it, or whoever the figure who made it? He basically said, this should be available for everybody to get. And then the insurance companies were like, yeah, screw you, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna charge arms and legs and everything like that so that people can get necessary treatment. So there are many people who would argue that the for-profit model in the insurance industry, or not just the insurance industry, but in the healthcare industry, is part of the reason why we don't have as good outcomes as we might want to see. So maybe it's time we move beyond that, but of course we're never going to do that under the next 4 years, because Donald frickin' Trump will never move us away from a for-profit model, especially if he can find a way to benefit from it. Of course, you have idiots like, Kevin Sorbo, who I think once famously tweeted out that if the vaccines are free, why isn't chemotherapy, and why aren't other needed medicines? And we're like, okay, we're for that too, y'all are the ones that fight that. So yes, let's give chemotherapy for free. Yes, let's give all these other items, that people need to live for free. Or at least let's do it in a way that's not motivated by profit. Yeah, if you get universal health care, if you get some sort of Medicare for all type system, your taxes may go up a little bit to cover the costs, but then you're not going to have to pay premiums. You're not going to have to pay co-pays or deductibles, or if you do, they're going to be minimal and nothing near what you pay under the current system. So I will always be somebody who stands up and promotes the idea of universal health care, promotes the idea of Medicare for all. Hell, even if we accomplish it a different way and do it via a public option, which tends to poll a little more popularly than Medicare for all, even though Medicare for all is also something that's very popular. If we were to, do it that way and allow me to pay in via my taxes to get a federal health insurance plan, and be able to get on Medicare, get on Medicaid, I probably would have much better health outcomes. My wife's personal physician, the general practitioner that she sees, was very upset that people were being removed from Medicaid after that time of people being on Medicaid because of COVID. She was like, I could actually give the patients the care that they needed without a fight, and they got treated for what they needed to be treated for. And now that people are moving back into the for-profit insurance companies, it's now going to have to be a fight tooth and nail to get it. Hell, with the Zepbound, the reason I had to wait 6 months to be on it is that the prior authorization that was signed for the Zepbound was incorrectly filed. They put the incorrect information on it. They said I'd be taking another weight loss drug when I wasn't. And as such, guess what? They said nope, and because we didn't appeal in time, but for whatever reason, I had to wait 6 whole damn months. Why? Because they'll look for any excuse that they can to try and not pay any money. Because that's what insurance companies do. They will look for any possible excuse to not pay money. And it's not just health insurance. This is all sorts of insurance. I had a friend of mine who was driving, he had State Farm, and the person that crashed into him also had State Farm. And what happened was these boyfriend and girlfriend were kind of racing down the street. I think it was the girlfriend that hit my friend, and then the guy kind of pulled his car around another different way to try and make it look like he was just an innocent bystander. Cop shows up. This other guy is sitting here and he's like, hey, I saw the accident. It was totally his fault. It was totally this guy's fault. It wasn't her fault. And he was going to get railroaded. The police officer was also going to railroad my friend. And then somebody nicely came out from their business and was like, I have the whole thing on video camera if you'd like to see it. Police officer goes in, watches the video, comes back out, apologizes to my friend, says, I was about to do you very wrong and very dirty because these people lied. Let me go deal with them for a second. And they were reamed out. They got the police report. Police report said, that the other party was completely and 100% responsible. But because both parties were insured by State Farm, not a good neighbor, guess what happened? They tried to claim that there was some fault on the part of my friend, and as such, he would have to pay his deductible. He successfully argued against it because he went back to the thing and said, look, the police report says I am in no way responsible for this. And then they said, okay, fine. But they were counting on the fact that he wouldn't fight it. Unfortunately for them, he worked for an insurance company. So, again, I've worked for that same insurance company, and it was, I saw all sorts of things and learned a whole sorts of things that I never would have known had I not worked for an insurance company. So they are always going to be out to try and not have to pay any money that they don't have to pay. Even if they're supposed to pay it, they're going to find ways to weasel out. That's why we needed the Affordable Care Act. It's why we needed to get rid of pre-existing condition clauses. It's why we needed to get rid of rescission, where they would just, cut your policy because they didn't like you anymore. Like, oh, we've wasted too much money on this policy, cut it. I mean, you still could cut whole lines of policies or whatever, but then that loss of insurance would allow that person to hop on another health insurance plan without any issue, or with minor issue at least. You shouldn't have to do it, but again, these companies are not following the rules that they should have to follow, or not acting like good people, because their responsibility, again, is not to the people who they insure. Their responsibility is to their shareholders. That's why we should never left the mutual model, I suppose, because at least with the mutual model, it was nonprofit, and you had to use like only 5% for the running of the company. Then 95% could go towards the treatment of the conditions that one might need treated. Let's see. Arizona sunflowers. I had cataracts in both eyes and had to get surgery. That was awful. The other people said it hardly hurt too bad, but I was an Aggie. I'm pretty brave. I'm sorry to hear that. Let's see. 1 in 5 claims submitted are never received or lost. They don't have to pay them on time. The Attorney General's office did report on that BS, and the insurance plays on us jerks. Exactly. And again, they wonder why people get mad. And again, you mistreat people so poorly for such a long time, something is bound to happen and somebody's bound to snap. I likely am not going to be the one to do it, even if they were to happen to me. But I can't even say that. I don't even know. I don't know what potential situation. I can't see myself in a situation that would resort to doing that, but you never know. This is the stuff that movies are made of, but movies are often made, off of, just taking out of real life. That, Matt, let's see. I get so mad I gotta go watch some cute cat or dog videos. I'm always watching cute cat or dog videos. Those are always a good thing to take away, distract you for a few minutes at least. That is weird though that your cataract. I think my dad had that too. I don't remember how he dealt with that or what happened with it. I guess it could have been worse. Even if the pain would have been unbearable, but it could have been worse, right? You could still see, right? Let's see, just kind of scrub back up. Hey Kevin, what's going on? Good to see you. Let's see. I do use Lion's Eye in Southeast Texas, Houston, Galveston to get glasses. Let's see. The orange turd is trying to take credit for insulin being sold less expensive now when it was Biden that did it. Frigging orange turd tried to take credit for the... Yeah, exactly. Well, he did... When Donald... To be fair, which I try to be here on Liberal Dane Radio, talk from the left, that's right. To be fair, there is a little teeny tiny little executive action. I mean, maybe Stormy might. I don't know if Stormy would think this is the right size or not, but Trump did take a little action that made insulin for some people and EpiPens for some people reduce cost. Now, when I did the math here on the channel at some point, back in 2020, maybe, that he did that. So there's some video probably on the channel back then. Maybe it's either one of my shows where I discussed the math or I did the math on a video, whatever. When you did the math of how many of these clinics exist, how many people these clinics serve, and then how many people of the general population would need those clinics to get things like EpiPens or insulin pens, it turns out maybe 0.05% or whatever of the country was able to get help because of Donald Trump's action. And good for them, but it wasn't the sweeping broad change that President Biden made. But the MAGA folks don't care. They'll believe what he says because it's him saying it. They won't fact check. Nobody in the media will fact check. Although, actually, I guess in his MSNBC interview, he did say that, he did say that he won by a large margin in the popular vote, and the interviewer was it Wagner, was like 1.2%. So they made sure to fact check him there, but I don't know. People might be concerned if they fact check Herr Donald too much that they're not going to get access to Herr Donald, so they need to walk that tightrope of what they say and what they don't say, because Donald Trump doesn't like a free press at all. In fact, he has people who want people to arrest people in the media for all of the harm they did to Herr Donald. So some people, do you have diabetes? Anyone? I do, but I don't. You have to use insulin anymore. But yeah, that's the thing. And it's not just all of the people who have diabetes. It's the people who use these specific clinics that Donald Trump helped. So it's not everyone. It's just people who use in these specific little clinics spread across the nation. Do the math, and it didn't help much of anybody. So while I agree with helping people get cheaper insulin and EpiPens, it's Donald Trump is trying to make it much more than what it was. When President Biden did what he did, it helped many more people. And the other plan is for that, I think, starts next year, will also help many people. Let's see. Boo, boo, boo. All right. So my little screen showing the video is showing a lot of swirling. Is anybody else getting swirling or no? Looks like my Twitch feed looks like it's just frozen in and of itself. Who the hell knows? I don't know. Arizona Sunflowers. I changed my diet, so I got off insulin. I'm still working on the diet change in and of itself. I mean, the Zepbound does reduce my appetite. It makes me less likely to eat things I'm supposed to. I think it also helps sugar pass, but it also helps. It makes you slow down, so you're less hungry. You don't get hungry as quickly. So there's all that stuff going on with it, but I still haven't lost. Taste for sweets. I guess I still haven't lost my taste for Coke. So Jeff, currently not in a buff. Darn. What's up, Ranger Gooseman? Good to see you as well. I think it's just the fact that I've given my my OBS the majority of the CPU until I can get a new laptop. I think that might be just affecting my downloading, my signal down to my computer, so it's making myself look splotchy. I don't know the best way to put it. Anyway, we have two. I actually worked and did 2 bits today, and I uploaded them to Blog Talk Radio, and then I can't play them on Blog Talk Radio. So I guess you're gonna get better quality bits today, simply because of the fact that that's how it works. Let's go ahead and start with this week's Hypocrite of the Week. This week's Hypocrite of the Week is Donald Trump, who whined and complained like a little baby about supposed lawfare being used against him by the Justice Department. Now he believes anyone who participated and possibly even enabled the January 6th hearings should be put in jail. No mention, of course, of what crimes they supposedly committed. He hasn't manufactured them yet. To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in live Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central on ThermalDanRadio.com or twitch.tv/ThermalDanRadio for more talk from the left. That's right. And there you go. So Donald Trump, yet again, Hypocrite of the Week. And of course, this time because he wants those people in jail, like Liz Cheney and others, because, you know, they dared question Herr Fuhrer, Herr MAGA von Schitz's pants. They dare question him, and as such, he wants to have retribution, as he said. So, does it make him a hypocrite to go after the retribution he claimed? No, but it makes him a hypocrite for being a whiny little a-hole about having the Justice Department used against him, and then him saying that they should be put in prison for it. Of course, Alex Wagner, I think, was like, well, are you going to instruct your Justice Department? It's like, no, they could do whatever they want. But, of course, if they do whatever, they're going to do whatever he wants because he's president. And, of course, he can't say it now because he's not president. But once he becomes president, he can instruct his Justice Department to do whatever the hell he wants them to do. And because the Supreme Court ruled that's privileged information, you can't see it. There's no way that we can know whether or not he did it or not because it wouldn't be privy to public records requests. So, i.e. enabling Donald Trump to be able to get away with any crime he wants to as long as he's using his own administration to do so. Try to see. Let's see. I wish I could get Ozempic or something like it because I still want to lose weight, but I have fatty liver, so my doc says I can't take it. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's always going to be some weird thing that prevents you from taking. I mean, I think Ozempic and Zepbound are two different things. I think they're like, you know, one of them does it one way, the other one does it another way. I don't know if Zepbound would be appropriate for you, but you know. Again, I'm not a doctor, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night either. So, either way, I'm sure your doctor knows best. But it's always good to get a second opinion if you feel like, you know, you're not getting the medicine that you want. Let's see. Let's see. Mad Mac, I knew I wouldn't last on House Show. There's a certain people. Trump is one that so sensitized me that it just mute the segment. That's fair enough. Of course, I didn't play. I just said that Donald Trump was the Hypocrite of the Week. I haven't played. Now, there's going to be another clip that we're going to talk about in a second. I guess we can talk about it now. We'll go ahead and play this week's Words of Redneck Wisdom, another caller to Jeff Carreer's lovely radio program. And we will... it's going to spawn a conversation about something else entirely, or it'll spawn a conversation because he's actually bringing up a point. He just doesn't. The guy doesn't understand the point that he's bringing up because he doesn't understand what's going on. So, but we got more. But we also have more corporate bootlicking going on in this particular segment. So, without further ado, here is this week's Words of Redneck Wisdom.
And now, Words of Redneck Wisdom, brought to you by Liberal Dan Radio.
I told you I was going to tell you what the Democrats are doing. Back in the great FDR days, they created a program for the disabled. I'm talking about the severely disabled. They gave them the dignity of work, and they did simple things, and whatever they had back in the day for government subsidies, they were on that too. But at least they were working. So now this program survived all the way through many administrations. And so, for some reason or another, I don't know why, they're trying to end this program for the people who have who were given the dignity of work and and be able to do whatever they did. And so the Democrats are saying no more. So I don't know why, but that's what they're doing. And so they're trying to say to these people, you don't deserve what you've got, even though they're giving it to these illegals coming over. Okay? But the way I learned about it was through Jason Chaffetz. And I saw he was talking about it on the bottom line with that gal that's got that funny name, Dagan or something like that.
Okay.
But, you can look it up, and so they're taking. So if they end it, they're going to take these people's dignity away, and put them on a because these people not are able to go out into the field and work for a minimum wage job. They can't do it, but they can do this. And this gives these people the dignity of work and being able to hold their head up rather than be on the public dole.
And this concludes Words of Redneck Wisdom, brought to you by Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.
And there you go. This week's Words of Redneck Wisdom. First and foremost, brings up Jason Chaffetz. Jason Chaffetz, at least in the realm of the things that I know Jason Chaffetz for, mostly for being a hypocrite. He was a Liberal Dan Radio Hypocrite of the Week one time, simply because of the fact that he was bitching and moaning and complaining about Hillary Clinton and saying no to embassy security funding, when in reality it was asked and the GOP Congress voted it down. And when asked by CNN why the GOP voted it down, he basically was like, well, you have to make hard choices in life or whatever. Well, but you're the ones who denied the funding, so you're the ones responsible for the lack of embassy security and diplomatic outpost security. That's Jason Chaffetz for you. So whenever I hear Jason Chaffetz's name, I always feel the need to have to remind people that's who that scumbag is. Now, dignity of work. The idea of dignity of work is such a bootlicking comment. Like, you don't have dignity or lose dignity because of your employment status. That's not an issue of dignity. But the idea that people want you to think it is a corporatist BS line. Because they want you to think that somehow working or being able to work or being able to be exploited in this case somehow gives you dignity. No. It would be like this person would be the same person that would be like back in the 1840s and 50s or whatever, saying, well, these people have the dignity of doing a good job, and we gave them a place to stay and food to eat. Which is actually the argument made by the first Liberal Dan Radio Words of Redneck Wisdom, but in describing slavery. So yeah, the idea that one doesn't have dignity because one isn't working, or the idea that one has dignity because they are working, neither are true. They're completely unrelated to each other. Now, what this individual doesn't understand, this is Cowboy who I featured on this show and this Words of Redneck Wisdom on previous weeks. Subminimum wage is what it's called. And it began in 1938 at the beginning of Roosevelt's second term. And it was used to help soldiers with disabilities who were coming back from deployment enable them to, I guess, train how to better work under their current existing disabilities so that they could one day be let off of it and then go ahead and work and earn a living by basically what they did is these companies offered, they'd pay you less, but they'd be training you to do a new job. So once you knew how to do the new job, you'd then be able to get paid your regular wages and not the sub-minimum wage. But it turned from a program for disabled veterans to a way to get cheap labor out of individuals who have disabilities that are either mental or physical, that make them, as the caller did say, not be able to work a minimum wage job. These people, about 120,000 people who work for companies that have gotten a waiver by the Department of Labor to be able to pay people sub-minimum wages, salaries, or whatever, based on whatever they condition the individual might have that makes them potentially less productive than other people. So they would say. But they still are working them. About different numbers that I've seen on this basically say that about of the 120,000 people that are working under these, waivers, about maybe one of the sites said about 60,000 of them make less than $3.50 an hour. 40,000 of them make less than half of minimum wage, which could work out because half of minimum wage is a little over $3.50. So it's possible that there's 20,000 people that are making between $3.50 and half a minimum wage. But there are people who are doing these jobs that are being paid like a quarter an hour. How is that giving anybody dignity? People's time should be worth more than a quarter a frickin' hour. I don't care what their conditions are. And that's basically slave labor. So that's what the Biden administration is trying to do. The Department of, the policy or whatever by the Department of Labor, the Fair Labor Standards Act provides the employment of certain individuals at wage rates below the statutory minimum. Such individuals include student learners, as well as full-time students employed in a retail or service establishment, agriculture, institutions of higher education. Also included are individuals whose earning or productive capabilities are impaired by physical or mental disability, including those related to age or injury. For the work to be performed, employment at less than minimum wage is authorized to prevent curtailment of opportunities for employment. Such employment is permitted only under certificates issued by the Wage and Hour Division. Employment of workers with disabilities, Section 14C of the Fair Labor Standards Act authorizes employers, after receiving a certificate from the Wage and Hour Division, to pay special minimum wages less than the federal minimum wage, to workers who have disabilities for the work being performed. Now, but the Biden administration wants to move away from this because of abuse, because of the fact that it's not being, giving people dignity. Let's see, today, what the proposed rule to end subminimum wage means for workers with disabilities. Let's see, how do you think the proposed rule will be received? Many people have been advocating for the end of 14C programs for decades. For them, this change is well received. However, there is a vocal contingent of agencies operating workshops, some workers and their families, who do not want to see an end to this. As a result, there are likely to be legal challenges. Recent Supreme Court decision, which overruled Chevron deference, will make it easier to challenge rules issued by federal agencies. It remains to be seen whether the rule would be blocked by the incoming presidential administration. Historically, Republicans favor programs that lead to a reduced reliance on public benefits. So from that perspective, a conservative position might be to support competitive integrated employment. Problem is the fact that, if somebody's working a quarter an hour, they're still going to have to get a lot of public assistance. The amount of public assistance that they're going to be, saving the federal government is negligible. And they should just be able to collect the disability and let that be the end of it. Let's see. This person has asked, what recommendations do you have for policymakers as they plan this transition away from 14C? The rule would be a good first step towards ending subminimum wage, but passing legislation like the Transformation to Competitive Integrated Employment Act is still necessary because it would include funding for systems transformation activities like training and technical assistance. And we can pull that up real quick for a second. But again, there are probably people who are going to be like, this should be a thing, who are not people, obviously the corporate people who are benefiting from paying substandard wages are going to, obviously want to continue paying substandard wages to individuals that they can get a waiver for. Let's see. A bill. Let's see. Oh, this is a very long one, but let's see. Purposes of this bill: assist employers with special certificates issued under 14C to transform their business and program operations to models that support individuals with disabilities to find and retain work in competitive integrated employment, ensure individuals with disabilities, families of such individuals, state and local governments, and other stakeholders are involved in the transformations, ensure individuals employed in programs using such special certificates transition to competitive integrated employment positions, and as needed to integrate services that support them in their homes and their community settings, identify models for processes that for shifting business and program models from such special certificates to competitive integrated employment models and integrated community participation and wraparound services, and to share that information with other such special certificate holders, state and local entities, and other service providers, support states and local governments as they revise and implement their Olmstead plans and local plans. Of course, there are states who have, despite the fact that, it's federally allowed, there are states that have basically said, nope, sorry, you cannot do this here. You cannot do this in our state. We will not allow you to pay individuals a sub-minimum wage. So I've always viewed this as something that was taking advantage of individuals who, should be able to work. I mean, look, if you want to work, you should be able to work, but you should be able to get a minimum. You should be able to get the pay that's for working. There are programs that have persons with, who might have developmental disabilities, who may be individuals who have been diagnosed under the autism spectrum. I think Cornell University may very well have a program like this. If it's not Cornell, I think it's something else with the C, where they opened a hotel up, and the individuals who work the hotel all have developmental disabilities, or whatever. And there was no. These people are actually, working towards degrees. These people are working to be more comfortable and be more autonomous, to learn ways on how they can deal with their individual, issues that might arise from whatever diagnosis that they have, and work with that to be able to improve their lives, both on an employment level and in a social level, in a level that allows them to be more autonomous, not have to live at home, etc. That, if anything, could potentially be help to give people dignity. But again, a lack of work doesn't mean you lack dignity, and having work doesn't mean you have dignity. Look at the CEO of United Healthcare. That's not dignity. That's treating people with disrespect, callousness, and heartlessness. But you're always going to have the people, they're going to be like, well, you have to pay them less because you're not as productive. How about this? How about we, if people have an issue like that maybe we just consider, taking care of them as they need to be taken care of. And if they want to work, they should be able to work, but they shouldn't have to deal with substandard wage. We have more than enough money in this country to be able to not have to pay individuals with disabilities less than the minimum wage. Oh, well, if they don't have to be productive, well, good, then pay them the minimum wage and up the minimum wage, and then if anybody else is being more productive, then they should get paid even more than that. Too bad, corporatist type folks who want to, take advantage of every single worker you possibly can. I'm not worried about y'all. I'm worried about the people who you're taking advantage of. So, When we lived in Kansas City, or we had Kansas, we had a bad hailstorm with goofball hail instead of golf ball hail. It knocked off the roofing from our home, but our home insurance wouldn't cover it. That's the thing. We have different policy levels here in Louisiana, based because we live on the Gulf Coast. So there was one point in time where I had Allstate insurance for my homeowners insurance, and they can kiss my ass because they would not cover wind and hail. Wind and hail and named storms. So the wind and hail and named storms policy has to be from somebody else. Now the property insurance for everything else but wind and hail is like $840 a year or some crap like that. The wind and hail provisions is what costs the additional like thousands more dollars. And then when you have a named storm, it's not your standard deductible, it's a percentage of the overall loss that you have to pay. It's some BS. So yeah, insurance is always wanting to cut whatever it is that they have to pay you, because again, they are more beholden to their shareholders. And just like these corporations who might be hiring these individuals under these waivers, their responsibilities, they'll say, is to their shareholders if they're a publicly traded company, or to the owners if they're not. And as such, they're gonna try and, skimp on every penny possible. All in the name of the almighty dollar. And of course, people like conservatives will not understand why paying people a subminimum wage is a horrible way to give somebody, quote, dignity. But they'll also lick the boots of the insurance company. I can't believe these people are laughing and joking about the death of the CEO. F you. Maybe you haven't had to deal with the BS that other people have had to deal with, and consider yourself lucky that you haven't had to deal with that BS yet. Because you will at some point, I'm sure. See, the rich guys seem to gather all the stray money in the government or left over from things Trump is going to cut off. Well, I mean, DOGE, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, which is, again, not a department, but it's a clever name because it's named after Doge, which is Musk's favorite meme, right? Her. But yeah, has so many government contracts already, and I'm sure he's going to get even more. That's why he wants to be chummy with Trump, because Trump's going to be the one that helps make him even more rich. Maybe Trump will help make Elon the first trillionaire, huh? That's all we need. If nobody can be a billionaire ethically, how the hell do you become an ethical trillionaire? You can't. Steven, can you get homeowners insurance in Louisiana? Yes. Unfortunately, for some people, they have to use the Citizens homeowners insurance, which is the insurer of last resort. And I've talked about that on the show before, how that's not how insurance is supposed to work. You're not supposed to allow private companies to only insure low risk without having to take on the high risk. Imagine if that happened with your employer insurance. Oh, we're going to give all the low risk people this one plan, but then we're going to move all the high risk people to no. Everybody gets on the same plan, and an employer-based plan, and there's a pooling effect by the employer that enables the insurer to charge the same rate to the lower risk and the higher risk people, because it all averages out in the wash. That's how pooling effect is supposed to work. Unfortunately, insurers have been using all sorts of governmental tricks and everything to try and get themselves out of the insuring dangerous things business. So, for example, nobody writes flood anymore. That's a federal thing. And then federal government, of course, changed how they rate flood insurance. So mine went up from like $200 to $400 and now $900 a year. But I can't not get flood insurance. I live in frickin' Louisiana, in New Orleans. even though I'm not technically in a flood zone, and my mortgage company does not require me to hold it. So that's therefore they won't put it on the escrow account. So I have to every year come out of pocket with it myself. Good use of a bonus, eh? If I get one. But yeah, they got out of the flood insurance, whole thing. Then they're like, oh, well, we'll write policies in Louisiana, but we're only going to write policies in the good areas of Louisiana. We're not going to write policies in the bad areas of Louisiana. Those bad, high-risk areas are going to be written by other people or by citizens, so therefore, we're going to reduce the risk. No. If you write insurance policies in Louisiana, you should have to cover everybody that comes to you or nobody at all. Let citizens write all the policies and let the rate come down, because you're insuring all the low risk with all the high risk and getting a pooling effect. But Trucker John, I'm going to get some ice cream now, said in my Forrest Gump voice. But Lieutenant Dan, you don't have no legs. Yes, Arizona sunflowers. You have to have ethics to be ethical, though. That is a correct and true statement. Steve, we're living in the good place, aren't we? No spoilers. I don't know if it's the good place once Donald Trump becomes president. Who knows? We might flip down to the bad place. I don't. Do they have do they call it the bad place in the show, The Good Place? Yeah, I want to know what flavor Trucker John has too, and why you're not sharing. Let's see. Scrolling back up. Yeah, Steven Sayers, the system is rigged to keep the money out of our hands and in their pockets. Exactly. Thank you, Aaron, for sharing my Blue Sky link or whatever. The name on Blue Sky, which is Liberal Dan Radio everywhere on the socials. Liberal Dan Radio on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, Blue Sky, Twitter. Oh, even on Instagram. Well, don't use it much, but it is what it is. Sorry, it is what it is. I don't have the button today because Block Talk Radio sucks. I'm gonna have to work on it. I was trying to isolate that sound bite so that I could play it whenever I wanted to on here. Unfortunately, my software that I use to download the stuff is not great. It's not working today for some reason. I need to figure out why. I don't know if it needs an update or what, but it happens. But yeah, so this guy is all trying to blame the Democrats for being mean to the people with disabilities. But in reality, what the Democrats are trying to do is stop the people with disabilities from being taken advantage of. And again, I'll say it many, many times. The idea that you have dignity because of your employment status or lack thereof is balderdash. Jeff Curry, who is Doge and who is Corn Pop? Doge was like the dog, or like it's like a dog meme. It became the Doge, whatever, and then Corn Pop was somebody that Biden apparently knew or heard of or whatever back in his lifeguarding days, maybe. I don't know. See, one of my best friends is forced to buy flood insurance due to home close to the river. Their house is on top of a bluff above the river. Nice. Now, of course, there are places in Louisiana where you can't get flood insurance because if you flood too many times, you can no longer get flood insurance there. Like there are parts where they'll open up the floodgates of the Mississippi River to try and ease some of the flooding risks downriver. But if you're in this particular area, you basically have to know that your house may get flooded when this happens, so you can't get flood insurance because of it. So, extreme moose tracks. Not just moose tracks, but extreme moose tracks. Oh, y'all gonna make me hungry now. I mean, I did have a little bit of lunch earlier. I wasn't too terribly hungry, and of course, It seems to be that when I take the medicine on a Saturday, it's on Monday that I get the stupid sulfur burps, which suck. I hate the sulfur burps. They're terrible. Not good. But I mean, I guess it shows that it's working, right? So I guess I should take that into consideration. Now, we're at the top of the hour. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Mondays and Wednesdays here on liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. Remember to like the video if you haven't done so. Share the stream. Invite other people to subscribe to the channel. Help us grow. Help the Al Gore rhythm, because Al Gore needs more rhythm. You can support the show in other non-financial ways if you have Amazon Prime, becoming a Twitch subscriber, twitch.tv/liberaldanradio, or you can subscribe to my Nerdy Dan channel, twitch.tv/nerdydan.com. That's on Tuesdays, every Tuesday, usually. And you can also support the show financially or whatever by becoming a Liberal Danimal here on YouTube, various levels starting at $2. You could subscribe buy bits over on Twitch. You can super chat, super sticker here on YouTube. You can Venmo Liberal Dan. You can buy me a cider. Go to buymecoffee.com/liberaldanradio, or just go to liberaldan.com and click the buy me a cider button. Or you could also be a patron, patreon.com/liberaldan, or patreon.liberaldan.com. Anyway, either way gets you there. Either ways you can support the show. I don't know what the financial situation for myself is going to look like sometime in the next, few months, because I know there are certain things that potentially are coming down, and I know there are other things that are going up, and I don't know how they will offset each other. So, any help you can give is great and appreciated. Of course, the most important help is just coming on the channel, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, etc. Interact with videos, interact with trolls if you have the spoons to do so. Respond to their inane comments on my posts, because again, every bit of interaction on the channel helps drive the algorithm, helps YouTube think that maybe more people should see the channel, and thus helping the channel grow. So yes, twitch.tv/liberaldanradio is the Twitch account, or the Twitch whatever. The Twitch channel. Thank you, Deborah. Appreciate you. New member. Okay, that's a different message I've seen before, but thank you very much, Deborah, for supporting the show. Jeff Curry, Roxanne Angry. I avoid sugar, but ice cream? That's another story. What about fudge, Jeff? Do you avoid fudge? Especially because you live so close to Uranus? Sorry, had to make the joke. I can't not make the joke, especially because you live so close to Uranus, and they love to make the jokes. I really need to go to Uranus one day. Get me some fudge from Uranus. I guess I could always order it. Hey Marie, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Big Hook, Kevin, you're weird and happy. What funny story, Big Hook? I was going back over my podcast just to kind of see what's going on with like my back end, and there was one particular episode of the podcast that has restricted monetization on it after the fact, and I think it's the one right after the election when you ranted for about a good 20 minutes about how stupid we are. I don't care. Again, I don't think I'm going to make super huge money off of the podcast streams, especially because of the fact that I don't run ads. I don't run mid-roll ads during the podcast, unlike some of the other people, because I don't want to have you miss a minute of the show. I think it's silly. Now on Twitch, I can't control what Twitch does, but on YouTube, I turn off the mid-roll ads during the show so that nobody has to miss a minute for whatever reason. Anyway. But yeah, I'm not mad at you, Big Hook. Call away when you can. You can't today because Blog Talk Radio is busted right now. You get what you pay for, I suppose, right? Let's see what else we got. What else we going to talk about today? We got Syria. Syria, one of the examples of somebody being toppled. Assad ousted from power in Syria, maybe temporarily, maybe permanently. Who the hell knows? There's no way to tell whether or not what's going to be going on with, if there will be counteroffensives to the rebels who were trying to topple Assad for a very long time. And oddly enough, it's probably because of the fact that, Israel had to defend itself against Hamas, and as such, and against Hezbollah. So because it took out Hezbollah, that took out some of the, support that Assad was seeing. And then Assad was supported by Russia, because that's Putin's boy. But because Putin's been too busy with Ukraine, he wouldn't be able to help Assad out either. So I guess the only other way that he helped Assad at this point is that Assad fled to Moscow, apparently, after the rebels or whatever took over. Now, of course, the rebels, who's to say what we're going to get? When one of the flaws, I guess, with my using the idea of, there was the people didn't want the former president of Egypt to take over, so the Egyptian military basically said, look, we're going to have free elections or whatever. You're not going to be the leader, and we're going to make sure that the people get to vote and who they want to vote in. Of course, the people they voted in were like Muslim Brotherhood types and not necessarily the best type of folks out there. So who knows what we're going to get with Syria. Apparently one of the people who's one of the uppity-ups used to be a member of Al-Qaeda, then split off to be a member of another Al group or whatever. Apparently Al-Qaeda and them fought a little bit for a time. This person apparently seems to think that he's made some changes internally, that he supports a more moderate view on certain things and being more inclusive of people, living in their society, not necessarily being inclusive in and of itself. Of course, all of those are words and they don't necessarily mean anything without actions behind them. But thousands of Syrians have poured into the streets, echoing with celebratory gunfire and waving the revolutionary flag in scenes recalled in the early days of the Arab Spring uprising. Our approach has shifted in the balance of power in the Middle East. President Joe Biden says, crediting action by U.S. and its allies for weakening Syria's backers, Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah. He called the fall of Assad a fundamental act of justice, but also a moment of risk and uncertainty. While rebel groups, are saying the right things now, but the U.S. should assess their actions. Of course, Donald Trump says it's none of our business. So after Donald Trump takes the oath of office, who the hell knows what's going to happen in Syria? Who's going to take control of it? This is, of course, Donald Trump, whose non-interventionist ways during 2016 included things like, bombing the people over there and taking their oil for ourselves. And if the terrorists don't behave, targeting their women and children. Because, that's what peace-loving people do, right? But no. Everyone's like, oh, Donald Trump's Donald Trump's gonna save us from going to World War III. Joe Biden wants World War III. Joe Biden was never gonna get World War III. He didn't want it, and he's not gonna get it because there's no way Putin's gonna start World War III with 45 days left before his appeaser-in-chief comes in. Big hook. I looked up Uranus and got mooned as well. Nice. Yeah, Jeff, I think you told us that I think you mentioned in the other show that you were there the other day, but you didn't go in. I think, if I'm remembering what you said correctly that time. Hey, it's Jojo Mojo. I didn't see. Hey, there's Jojo Mojo. Good to see you, Jojo. But yeah, so craziness with Syria, but then of course you had the French government that collapsed too. Guess that's the one bad thing with a parliamentary type system. I guess the only benefit of our two-party system is that we're less likely to have such shenanigans. But, the French government had a no-confidence vote. French government collapsed after Prime Minister Michel Barnier was ousted in a no-confidence vote. MPs voted overwhelmingly in support of the motion against him just 3 months after he was appointed by Emmanuel Macron. Opposition parties have tabled the motion after the former Brexit negotiator controversially used special powers to force through his budget without a vote. It marks the first time in the country's government that has collapsed with a no-confidence vote since 1962. The development will further France's political instability after snap elections in the summer led to no single group having a majority. MPs were required to either vote yes or abstain from Wednesday's vote, with 288 votes needed for the motion to pass. 331 voted in support of the motion. Barnier is now obliged to present the resignation of his government, and the budget which triggered his downfall is defunct. However, he is likely to stay on as a caretaker prime minister while Macron chooses a successor. Of course, during all this, they had the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral, where, of course, you had Donald Trump sitting there in the front, 2 seats away from Jill Biden, our first lady. And then what happened? Donald Trump took the picture and used it to help bolster his fight Donald Trump cologne. Is it now? I'm wondering, is it really a cologne, or is it just a concept of a cologne? Like, the watches were not real watches yet. They were just concepts of watches. It's a concept of a fragrance. Fragrance. So yeah. So I was worried about my 100% Mexican wife, but her grandmother did get citizenship in 1905, circa. I mean, yeah, but you never know with Donald Trump. People were talking about denaturalizing people. Like, that's one of the things that frickin' Roger Stone was talking about, is looking into how we might denaturalize people. Of course, his whole way of looking at this is cruel. I mean, yeah, if somebody is a violent criminal, yeet him. Get rid of him. I don't care. Which we could yeet all of the violent criminals. Except for maybe Luigi, right? Everyone loves Luigi. It's a Luigi! But, yeah. The idea that they want to go after dreamers, the idea that they want to go after people who were brought over here as kids, like, I don't understand the mindset of people who say that people who were brought over as like 4-year-olds are criminals. That's just like if I decided to if I wanted to steal a candy bar from a store, but I was at the store with my kid, and I put the candy bar like in my kid's pocket or whatever, and then they catch the kid with the candy bar. Is the kid a criminal? No, kid had no choice in the matter. Kid had no control over what was going on. A kid doesn't have any control over whether or not their parents bring them over a foreign border to come into the United States. They have no control over that. They have no decision-making skills as it pertains to that. They have no ability to say, like, oh, but Daddy, I don't want to go to America. We would be illegal over there. Or, whatever. But I'm kind of sound like Peppa Pig a little bit. But no, they have no ability whatsoever. There's no, even if they could speak out and say, I don't want to go to America, they still would, are still being brought, and then these MAGA idiots are trying to claim that these people are somehow criminals. They're not criminals. They did nothing wrong except wanting to remain in the country where they were raised and, do good things like, own businesses with other people. But, who knows, right? So, Big Hook, the GoFundMe accounts will be huge for Luigi. Nobody has had a bigger GoFundMe account than Luigi. So, I mean, Big Hook, anytime you're talking about the shop that you can buy fudge in this town of Uranus, Missouri, I think it's on I-69 too. I mean, it's always a good reason to make a comment about Uranus and stuff like that. There was a time, just to go off topic for a second, that we could go during the Food and Wine Festival at Disney, and it was at Epcot, and they used to have a Ghirardelli booth, and you would go into the Ghirardelli section, and they'd have these little tins that you could buy, and you could, as long as you could shut the tin well enough, it's a single cost, and you could pack in all of the chocolate that you want. And it was hilarious because it was me and my wife, and we were sitting there trying to figure out which chocolates we wanted, and I could sit there and I was trying to sort it all out and trying to make it so that it would fit well. And then there was this other cute couple there, a gay couple, who was also figuring out how they could fit as much chocolate as they could into these little tins. And we counted all the chocolates that we were able to fit after we were done checking out, and I happened to pack in more chocolate than the gay couple did. Jokes write themselves, right? Let's see, Jeff Curry. It was a big strip club complex that got shut down. They came up with Uranus Fudge Factory as a huge middle finger and a joke. It's a huge tourist thing now along the interstate. Is it I-44? I thought it was I-69. Maybe they just joke around that it's I-69. I don't know. Every time I walk in, I have to shout back something to the welcome. Missouri. It's in Missouri. Or Missouri, depending on which, I think. If you're north of a certain river, I think it's Missouri. If you're south of the certain river, I think it's Missouri. I don't know. It is what it is, right? So, and of course, you're probably hearing that Arizona says they cannot do that. Tell them. These are the people, they're not supposed to be able to do a whole bunch of things that they want to do. But the Supreme Court enabled some of it. How much more are they going to enable? I don't know. So, Luigi is qualified to run as a Republican now. Nice. To Arizona. Half my neighbors here are Mexican or Latin. They wouldn't send them away. They live in my nice community and pretty home and have jobs. Why would they even pay attention to them? I'd cry. Because they don't care. Because to them it's more about making a point and making their voters happy than actually doing things that are beneficial to the people of this country. When Donald Trump started going through the stuff that he went through for dealing with immigration and folks that were here, he didn't go after the hardened criminals. He went after the easy targets. He went after, low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And at least one of them was somebody who supported Donald Trump. Couldn't vote for him, but somebody who supported Donald Trump, but then he got yeeted. So, regular people, not criminals, just pure racism and meanness. I saw him on that interview. It's like he just hates everyone, not white. Well, to his voters, that's a feature, not a bug. Because they elected him to do all the crappy things that they want him to do, which includes being a xenophobic bigot. And bad things are going to be happening to people. I just hope, as much as possible, the bad things that happen to people are happening to the people that voted for this BS first. It's not going to work that way because we're not that lucky, but still. You never know. You never know what they're going to come up with. It's probably going to... My fear is it's going to be 10 times worse than what everybody thinks it's going to be. And of course, it's probably great for the podcast, but I'd rather have an unsuccessful podcast and have decent leadership, sane leadership for the next 4 years and beyond than have a lot of material to cover on my podcast whilst, having to sit here and watch people suffer because Donald Trump's a xenophobic bigot. What about poor Mario? It's a Mario. And, it's Luigi Mario and Mario, which is funny. Because they're the Mario brothers, which implies that their last name is Mario. So Mario's first name is Mario. Luigi's last name is Mario. Anyway. But yeah. I'm still kind of shook that they caught him this quickly. It's not quick. It was like 7 days or whatever, but still. I'm surprised that they caught Luigi that quickly. And I'm surprised that, the guy's last name is also Mangione. Does he know Chuck? Chuck Mangione feels so good. That one, that song. Anyway, I actually like that song. I think it's like a little catchy little jingle that I used to like as a kid, and I still like as a grown up now. And it's just, you know, had to go. People are gonna say that Luigi had to go ruin the good Mangione name. Of course, their family is like ridiculously wealthy. Like they own two, like what is it, two separate golf courses or whatever, or country clubs in the state of Maryland. I didn't even know we had two in the state of Maryland. I guess that shows you what side of the tracks I grew up on, I suppose, right? Let's see, the Trump interview was total lie fest for his maggot audience. Meet the Press has lost most of all of its credibility for pushback and fact-checking. I mean, she did do a little bit of job, but of course, people like Chuck Todd, who I think was complaining over the people who were cheering over the death of the CEO. Like, boo-hoo, Crimey River, shut up. Stop clutching your pearls and do your damn job. Of course, here on Liberal Dan Radio, we have been and we will continue to be critical of the media people on our side who are a bunch of worthless shits. There's that too. See, Stephen Sayers, Trump's billionaire cabinet are all laughing at Trump. They know he's bankrupt. But see, that's the thing, Stephen. His bankruptcies, in my strong opinion, his bankruptcies weren't a matter of ineptitude. His bankruptcies were a matter of his greed and his selfishness and his corruptness. And that's one thing we did a very terrible job at. I tried to push it towards the end, but my voice isn't big enough to have this be heard. Donald Trump's bankruptcies were a matter of him being corrupt, not him being inept. He may very well be an inept business person, that's for certain. But his bankruptcies were more about him trying to get out of paying debts and cashing out from his corporations before they went under. More than anything about inept business, running. Josh, I remember playing Feel So Good in high school jazz band. Nice. I would have liked to have been able to maybe have played some of that, because I was in my middle school band, but I didn't play very long. So, it is what it is. I didn't have, again, I think I tell the story about one time where my youngest we're up in Delaware, and usually when all the family gets together on my dad's side, they, play some music or whatever and sing some songs just as a family. And my dad knows how to play the guitar. My uncle knows how to play almost anything. And Henry was sitting there just banging on this toy guitar, just boom, 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 boom. And it was, obviously my dad was getting very frustrated with the whole thing because it was distracting to him. And my uncle had to be like, look, if he doesn't, if you tell him not to do it, he's not going to want to do it, and he'll lose interest. So, and that was the moment I realized why I never learned how to play an instrument very well, very long. I mean, for a while I learned how to play the violin. For a while I learned how to play the saxophone. But at the end of the day, never really stuck because I never really had the support at home, pushing me to do that sort of thing. So, when he did mention in the MSNBC interview about the people that are coming across who are from mental institutions and prisons, I was like, oh, well, you should get along well with them. I mean, those are the type of people that would best be able to hang out with Donald Trump. The criminals, because he's a felon, and the mental institution, because he's batshit crazy. Let's see. I know we're well behind. I think the chat is kind of well behind where we're at, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Wondering if my faking of the Feel So Good is going to cause a copyright strike. That would be amazing if that happened. You have committed a copyright violation of Chuck Mangione's Feel So Good. No, I haven't. It was just me singing it myself. One of the Sun's newer songs goes into a reggae thing. I said, let me play Jump on stage and play some cowbell. Nice. Every song needs more cowbell, right? I have a fever. and it needs more cowbell. Steve's like, ain't I a stinker? Are you quoting Animaniacs with that one? Anyway, it's about 9:25. Aaron is very cool. Aaron is awesome. Aaron is the shiznit, so to speak. Did we talk about little Nazi Nick Fuentes on last Wednesday's show? Because I intended on talking about him last week, and I don't know if I did talk about him last week. Because apparently there is a little bit of a video released with him getting his tallywhacker not, having stuff done to it by another dude. And look, I don't mock people for being gay. It's not cool to mock people for being gay. I mock people for being hypocrites. And that's another example of conservative hypocrisy. He'll sit there and be shitty to gay people, yet he'll have no problem with having a guy go to town on him, so to speak. So he should have known better than to have photos of himself all over the internet before to do a hit job. What, Luigi? Yeah, I mean, sure. It makes sense that, maybe you should have cleared the internet of your pictures because, again, software. I mean, nothing's ever really deleted on the internet, though. So see, of course, but Trump did squander a pile of millions from his daddy. Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, if Donald Trump would have just taken the money that Daddy Trump gave him and just put it into a hedge fund, he'd have more money now potentially than he does, even with all of the fraud and corruption and corrupt behavior and, misuse of bankruptcies and other things like failing to pay people the debts or what he agreed to pay them, and instead saying, "Oh, if you don't like this offer for a settlement, then sue me." And of course, the cost to bring a lawsuit to try and get the money compensated back for what was really owed, the chances of that happening and then being worse off because of having to pay legal fees. That's why he did that, because he knew he could get away with it. So I don't know if Chuck Mangione is still alive. Let's see. Is Luigi going to ruin the Chuck Mangione search? It says he's 84 years old, born November 29th, 1940 on the website. So I do not see dead on his Wikipedia page. So apparently he is still alive and kicking. Thank you, Aaron, for gifting a membership, letting somebody be a Danimal, liberal Danimal. Appreciate you as always. The mod squad in and of itself is just amazing, and I could not hope for a better mod squad. See, Chuck had a heart attack after backing up Gaga's Edge of Glory. Huh, interesting. I didn't realize that. Yeah, he wouldn't pay it back his legitimate debts just because he didn't feel like it. That's exactly what happened. All right. I think I've hit everything. We talked about France a little bit, France's government toppling, falling apart, falling to pieces, Syria's government being toppled, falling to pieces. I mean, some people view, the overturning of of Assad is a good thing in and of itself in a vacuum. Of course, nature abhors a vacuum, and who takes over the vacuum of power that's left in Syria remains to be seen. Of course, the United States did go ahead and hit targets in Syria like that belong to terrorists, so that's good. And I think Israel also did the same thing. Fine. Again, I have no problem with the proactive taking out of terrorists. It's just the problem when Israel does it, they also don't care about who else they kill in the process. Or at least when Netanyahu does it, when the Israeli government does it. I should follow my own rules about how we should refer to the squabbles over there. When Benjamin Netanyahu goes and tries to take out terrorist groups, he doesn't care about all the innocents that are left behind in the wake. So Boom, boom, boom. So we got that. We talked about French government, talked about Syria. We did Words of Redneck Wisdom. We did Hypocrite of the Week. We got all that stuff down. So we are going to probably, again, because I don't have the outro of the show isolated or whatever. And because maybe we'll end the show with the night before Christmas, and that'll be the out for Twitch. But of course, because Twitch doesn't like it when I play the Nimbus song. However, we'll then continue on. We'll end after the War on Christmas thing on Twitch, and then we'll continue with the other thing here on YouTube for a while now. So, without further ado, here is the War on Christmas audio once again. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the land Fox News warned its viewers of a dastardly plan. The liberals were launching their war on the season to get rid of Christmas and commit acts of treason, removing decorations out of their sight and telling you that Santa and Jesus ain't white. Environmentalists who'll come right after your soul. They hate all things Christmas, especially the coal. They'll sneak in your house all dressed in their flannel and instead give the bad kids some new solar panels. They'll take up all decorations that please us. They'll even go after tiny baby Jesus. Now all these Fox lies cause such a frustration. Who would save us all from this misinformation? When live from the net there came lots of chatter. Could it be old Saint Nick, or perhaps someone fatter? Broadcasting from New Orleans down in Louisiana, it was none other than Liberal Dan, coming to save the holiday season, busting through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. But I cannot do it myself, he exclaimed, so he called other groups, each one by name. On Christians, on Muslims, on Wiccans, on Jews, on Hindus, on Buddhists, and atheists too. Let's all spread the word and tell them indeed that there's no war on Christmas, just one on greed. So instead of joining this manufactured fight, listen to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.